Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. In today's episode, I want to talk about the military coup that has taken place in Gabon.
Military officers say they've seized power in Gabon and put its president, Ali Bongo, under house arrest.
For the people here have arrested me.
If successful, Gabon's coup would be the 8th in West and Central Africa since 2020 and would end the Bongo family's nearly 6-decade-long grip on power.
Now, Gabon is a country that's located in West Africa, and whilst it's relatively small in terms of its population, which is only around 2.4 million, it is an oil-rich nation being a member of OPEC, and it's also one of the world's largest producers and exporters of manganese, which is an important element in the production of steel and iron. Now, interestingly, Gabon has been ruled by the same family since 1967. And the current president, Ali Bongo, took over control of the country directly from his father in 2009. So the fact that the same family had been controlling the country for 56 years would probably lead you to surmise that Gabon has been well managed and has a stable economy. However, despite the fact that the country is an oil-rich nation, over 1/3 of the population live in poverty. So as we've seen with a lot of other asset-rich countries, we've got a very big divide between the rich and the poor. So in today's episode, we'll have a detailed look at the latest military coup. And when I say latest, this is because there was one actually undertaken in 2019, which failed. So we'll have a look at what happened back then. So we'll also have a look at what happened back then. As this is the first time that we've talked about Gabon, I'll give you a brief overview of the country. We'll have a look at a video that's been released on social media by the existing president Ali Bongo. We'll talk about who the leader of the military coup is and whether or not he's likely to take over as president. We'll then go on to have a look at which other African countries have experienced military coups recently. And then finally today, I'll wrap up with my summary as to what I think the implications of this military coup are, not just for Gabon, but for the global economy.
Gabon. In the last few hours, soldiers have appeared on national television there to declare the official results of the elections there annulled, and they claim that they have taken power.
With mutinous army commanders have announced they've overturned the results of the weekend's presidential election that gave Ali Bongo Ondimba a third term as head of state. He's been in power since 2009 after taking over from his father, who ruled the African country for more than 4 decades.
Now, gunfire's also been heard in the capital Libreville, and Gabon's borders have been closed. The intervention coming almost within an hour of the election commission announcing there that the incumbent president, Ali Bongo, had been re-elected as president of Gabon with 64.27% of the vote, with over 56% of people turning out to vote.
Our beautiful country, Gabon, has always been peaceful. Today, the country is facing a serious institutional, political, economic, and social crisis. In the name of the people of Gabon, as protectors of our institutions, we've decided to defend peace by ending the current regime. The general elections of August 26, 2023, and their rigged results are cancelled. Borders are closed. All of the Republic's institutions have been dissolved.
Gabon is a country in West Africa that's bordered by Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon to the north, the Republic of Congo to the east and south, and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. Gabon is situated on the equator, and around 3/4 of the country is covered with dense equatorial rainforest, containing more than 3,000 species of vegetation. The rainforest is also inhabited by monkeys, gorillas, various tropical birds, and several varieties of elephant. Over 1/3 of the population are employed in agriculture. However, the majority of this agriculture is subsistence farming, so people growing food for their own resources. But the single biggest contributor to Gabon's economy is oil. Gabon is a member of OPEC and produces over 200,000 barrels of oil per day, the majority of which are exported. In addition to its abundant oil and gas fields, Gabon is also the second largest producer of manganese, which is a very important element in the production of steel and iron. The current president of Gabon, Ali Bongo, who is the son of Omar Bongo, who was elected to the position of president in December 1967 at the age of 32. Omar Bongo held the presidency of Gabon for 42 years until his death in June 2009, Ali Bongo was born Alan Bernard Bongo in neighbouring Congo Republic in 1959 and attended a private school and university in France, developing a love for American music. In 1978, he released A Brand New Man, a 9-track solo funk album with a cover showing Bongo in a wide-collared white shirt open across his chest with gold rings on clenched fists. Bongo Jr., as he was known, came to power after a contentious vote in 2009, vowing to modernise a country hooked on dwindling oil reserves and famed for its ultra-rich champagne-guzzling elite. A fan of jazz and the music of Michael Jackson, French-educated Bongo's fluent English and his global outlook raised expectations in a population desperate for Gabon's oil and mineral wealth to be shared more fairly. But unfortunately for the people of Gabon, new industries did not grow quickly and deep inequality has persisted, with almost a third of Gabon's 2.4 million people living below the poverty line. Keen to distance himself from his father, who relied on business deals with former colonial power France and who became a symbol of oil-fueled extravagance, Bongo promised to diversify the economy and protect the environment. He slashed the number of ministers in government and capped salaries for officials running state businesses. But it was Bongo's commitment to saving the rainforest, which covers more than 80% of Gabon, and its endangered elephants, that drew attention from abroad, winning praise from conservation groups and Britain's Prince Charles. He banned raw wood exports, enlarged protected areas, and demarked 13 new national parks to combat the illicit wildlife trade and illegal loggers. However, his image as an environmentalist was tarnished in 2016. Accusations of vote meddling stoked public anger amid a period of low crude prices and belt-tightening. Rioters burned parliament and police responded by killing protesters. In 2018, it was reported that Ali Bongo had had a severe stroke, and as a direct result of this, he was moved to Morocco to convalesce. And in 2019, a military coup was announced against his leadership, claiming that he was no longer capable of being able to run the country. And at 4:30 a.m. on Monday the 7th of January 2019, a man identifying himself as Lieutenant Kelly Ondo Obiang read out a message on state radio that was simultaneously filmed for social media. The coup attempt had been as a direct result of a video message that was broadcast from Ali Bongo on New Year's Day, in which he slurred some of his words and appeared unable to move his right arm. The coup attempt in 2019 was quickly overturned and Ali Bongo remained in power. When Bongo won the 2016 election, accusations of vote meddling stoked public anger amid a period of low crude prices and belt-tightening. Rioters burned parliament and police responded by killing protesters. And at that time, Gabon needed an IMF bailout to help the economy recover. Now, following news of the latest coup, Ali Bongo has released a video message on social media. So let's have a look at that message, which will help you form your own opinion as to how capable you think Ali Bongo is of running this country.
I'm Ali Bongo Ondimba, President of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you.
Across Gabon, crowds carrying flags and chanting slogans took to the streets on Wednesday.
Now this is Independence Day. The army has freed our country. We are free. We have the right to be free and to express ourselves the way we want, because we didn't know we could be freed. Today we are free.
The coup has, however, been condemned internationally. The White House said it was deeply concerned and following this very, very closely. A French government spokesman said, "We condemn the military coup and recall our commitment to free and transparent elections." The military takeover creates more uncertainty for former colonial power France's presence in the region. It has 350 troops in Gabon, and its forces have recently been kicked out of Mali and Burkina Faso after coups there.
Following the news of the coup, at least 30 commercial ships have dropped anchor, meaning that they will not make any deliveries to Gabon until the political situation has stabilised and the companies that own all of the assets on those ships know that they will get paid. So one of the problems from Gabon's point of view is that the uncertainty that a military coup or a change of leadership throws up in Africa means that it could run short of vital supplies in the interim period until everything stabilises and countries know exactly who's in charge.
On the streets of Gabon, there have been scenes of jubilation. Crowds lifted this senior officer in the air. He appears to be Brice Oligui Nguema, head of the Republican Guard, who was named late on Wednesday as leader of Gabon's transition.
Nguema is the son of a military officer who trained at the Royal Military Academy of Meknes in Morocco. The Gabonese Republican Guard, whose military officers are recognisable by their green berets, is the Presidential Guard, and its head, Nguema, ensured they not only protected the country's president, but also tried to fortify Gabon's internal security systems with more precise shooters and modern military equipment. He also introduced a security reform in the Republican Guard by setting up the Special Intervention Section, which is directly headed by Ali Bongo. Beside his military and diplomatic duties, Nguema is seen as entrepreneurial and also believed to be a millionaire in Gabonese circles. And according to a 2020 investigation by the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project on the Bongo family assets in the United States, Nguema was instrumental in expanding the family's businesses overseas. It's reported that he bought 3 properties in middle and working class neighbourhoods in the Maryland suburbs of Hyattsville and Silver Spring, just outside the capital, in 2015 and 2018. The homes were purchased with a total of over $1 million in cash, the report said. The report also said that Nguema was a cousin of the Bongos. One of the largest oil production companies in Gabon is a private business that was originally established by Shell, but was acquired by Carlyle, the US-based private equity firm, in 2017 for $628 million. It's reported that Assala has increased its production since Carlyle's acquisition in 2017 and now produces around 45,000 barrels of oil per day. In addition to its production, it's also increased the size of its oil and gas reserves by 160% through exploration. Now, interestingly, in terms of timing, on August the 15th, 2023, Carlyle announced that it had agreed a deal to sell Assala to French producer Morel & Pomme for $730 million. In addition to expanding its reserves, Carlyle also announced that operating costs have reduced by 40% since Carlyle took over the business, and that they've invested a total of $1.3 billion into the company, the majority of which has gone towards new exploration activity, acquisitions, and improving operations. One of the global concerns is that as we are seeing a slowdown in the global economy and the price of oil is falling, it's having a knock-on impact to a lot of unstable economies in Africa. And Gabon is a really good example of this. Gabon is highly dependent on income from oil exports. And as the price of oil has fallen significantly over the course of the last 12 months, the level of income that Gabon is receiving has gone down, and that puts added pressure onto the nation. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at the number of military coups that have happened in Africa over the course of the last 70 years, and also the number of attempts. Since 1952, there have been 106 successful coups in Africa and an additional 108 unsuccessful attempts. So that gives a total of 214 coup attempts in the last 71 years. And as you can see from this table, that puts Africa streets ahead of the rest of the world. The continent with the next highest amount of coups is Latin America, where there have been 146 attempts, 70 of which were successful. Asia Pacific is next on the list with 49 attempts, 27 of which were successful. The Middle East has had 44 attempts, with 21 of those being successful. Europe has seen 17 coup attempts, 8 of which were successful, and South Asia has had 16 attempts, of which 10 were successful. So in total, over the course of the last 71 years, there have been 486 coup attempts across the world, 242 of which were successful and 244 of which were unsuccessful. And if we look at the countries in Africa that have had the most coup attempts, you can see that top of the list is Burkina Faso, where there have been 9 attempts, followed by Benin, Nigeria and Sudan, which have all had 6 attempts, and Sierra Leone, Mauritania, Mali and Burundi, where there have been 5 attempts. And in terms of looking at a timeline of the most recent coups, a military coup took place in Niger on the 26th of July 2023. The most recent coup in Burkina Faso occurred in January 2022. In Sudan in October 2021. There was a coup in Guinea in September 2021, in Chad in April 21, and in Mali in August 2020. So what's the summary and conclusion today? Well, I wanted to post this video really to share with you the news that there is more political unrest happening right now in West Africa. Gabon is the latest country that has experienced a military coup. And as we've seen from today's video, this isn't the first military coup that has taken place in Africa over the course of the last 70 years. There have been over 200 attempted coups, and over 100 of them have been successful. Now, as we've also seen from today's video, there are specific reasons as to what's happening in Gabon right now. The Bongo family have been in power since 1967, and over that period there have been a lot of allegations of mismanagement, fraud and corruption. And we've got a situation where the people at the top of this country are enjoying very extravagant, lavish lifestyles. They're living in palaces, they are living like kings, whilst around 1/3 of the country is living in absolute poverty. And that unfortunately is a common thing that we see in a lot of developing countries that are asset rich. Now, ever since Ali Bongo took over as the president in 2009, there have been allegations of vote rigging and fraud in the elections. And following his stroke in 2018, he's suffered from health problems, and there have been accusations that he is no longer fit to run the country, and that he is now essentially being used as a puppet. And as we saw in today's video, there was an attempt in 2019 to overthrow his presidency, however that was quickly quelled. Now, the catalyst for the latest coup attempt is the recent election. And once again, there are a lot of accusations that the vote was rigged. And what we've seen is that the military have decided that enough is enough, that they are taking over control of the country, and that President Bongo has been ousted. So from today's video, we've seen the drivers as to what's caused this coup. But the big question is, what is going to happen now? Will a new government be formed? And will the current leader of the coup look to take over the country and become the new president? And if he does that, then the big question is whether or not he will change the existing system. Will he look to distribute wealth more fairly, to try to improve the living conditions, the infrastructure, and the pay for the people of Gabon? Or is there a risk that we just see one rich president being replaced by another? And of course, there are multiple reasons why this is important. Firstly, Gabon is an exporter of oil and gas. So the countries that are buying that oil and gas are dependent on that supply. And as we've seen from today's video, the disruption that's being caused by the coup means that Gabon is no longer receiving deliveries of vital imports. It's importing things like food and other sources of fuel. So as those supplies dry up, that's going to cause even more problems for the poor people in the country. And the longer that the uncertainty goes on in terms of the governance of the country, that means that there will be bigger question marks as to whether anybody wants to actually import anything or buy any of Gabon's goods. So a military coup will have direct economic implications for both Gabon and also the countries that are dealing with Gabon. But there's also the political instability issue. As we've heard in today's video, there have been a number of coups that have taken place over the course of the last 3 years in West Africa. And when other countries see this sort of thing happening, it encourages their military or their opposition to think about whether or not they should try to do the same thing. So there can be a domino effect, a ripple effect here. We've talked about this a lot in previous videos in terms of the economic domino effect. What happens when a country goes bankrupt and stops making all of its payments? But what we're talking about here is the idea of taking control of a country using military force, spreading throughout a continent. And there is a risk that if this military coup is successful, that other groups in Africa and other parts of the world will decide that they should do the same thing, that they should take control, get rid of the existing ruling party, and use their military force to take power. And as I'm sure we all know, with great power comes great responsibility. So the responsibility for the people who are leading a coup is to make sure that they put some sort of change in place that improves the lives of all of the people in that country. If it doesn't, if it just results in one fat cat taking over from the previous fat cat and the people don't see any benefit, then military coups are absolutely pointless and actually are detrimental for a country because they result in a lot of uncertainty and political instability. So in terms of the question of what's going to happen in Gabon, well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see firstly whether or not this military coup does last for the long term, and then secondly, what the leaders of that military coup are going to do in terms of running the country, what they're going to set up, what they're going to put in place, and how they're going to improve the living conditions for the majority of people in Gabon. So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments as and when they happen on this story. If you've liked what I've said today, then please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end, and here's something to put a smile on your face.